What's up? I'm full YouTuber Andrew now. We've done 3 of these. I'm in it. Let's go. Welcome to Where Are All My Friends? I'm having fun with it now. It's kind of fun. This week's episode is with Jack Gallagher, who is probably most known for managing Mount Joy. But more specifically, we went into this with a subject that I was really interested in talking about, which was how to be proactive during 2020 in music. Mount Joy was thrown every curveball you can imagine. They had an album coming out this year. They had all sorts of festivals. They were on tour with the Lumineers. And a lot of that fell apart all because of this year. It was so cool to talk to Jack because he wasn't just, oh, poor me, poor us. Every time a new obstacle got brought up, he came with a solution, and they stayed so proactive and they stayed so in it for the community, which is what I love. So it was just a super cool story for that reason. I think you're really going to enjoy it. Now that I am YouTuber Andrew, this is the spot where I tell you to like and subscribe. I kept saying subscribe, but also hitting the like button on it is massive for whatever the YouTube gods look for in videos. I don't know, but I want to be blessed by them. All right, do that and enjoy this video. Here we are, another episode, another week of Where Are All My Friends? This week with Jack Gallagher. And I'm hype because this was one of those ones where we met. Actually, the way we met is pretty fun. You came through before all of COVID and all of that. You came through to our house in LA, me and Adam Elmakias, and we made you breakfast. And you came through before show. Adam was the breakfast god. And I really didn't know you, but through Adam got to meet you and kind of
Phenomenal, bro.
realized, yeah, right? I miss those days. But yeah, like kind of realized, I was like, oh, Jack like really does this. Like you are a real manager. It's not just like link or description and Instagram bio of this. Like you really do be doing this. So I always kind of had a feeling that it would be a fun podcast. But then everything happened with Corona, and it kind of, the conversation and the topic kind of took form in an interesting way where we now have a very specific subject to talk about. And I think that this is the perfect episode and you're the perfect person to talk to, but really just getting into ways to proactively grow a band and grow their business and keep them afloat during the weirdest year for music ever. So thank you for joining. I think this is going to be a super insightful, super cool conversation.
Yeah, excited to chat.
Yeah, for sure. So I want to get into a couple different topics. I really want to talk to you. I know you've been killing it with drive-in shows. You've gotten really crafty with merchandise and what you've done with them there. You've released music throughout the year. Like you've done pretty much everything a band can do during this time. And I really want to get into those specifics, but for anybody who doesn't know who you are and just like kind of briefly your story before we get into the nitty gritty of that, of just like what got you into managing music in the first place.
In high school, I guess the reason we met was through your old roommate, Adam Elmakias. We
Yeah.
were friends in middle school in 8th grade.
Oh, it goes back to
And
middle school with him? I
yeah,
didn't realize that.
we had a burgeoning duct tape wallet company together in 8th grade, like pre-algebra. Yeah.
Yes.
We were in like the same big group of friends and hung out a good bit. But we had this one class together where we definitely were not the best students and mostly focused on making duct tape wallets and trying to see if kids would eat like the hot peppers that the teacher grew in the room. So over the years, I moved the next year to North Carolina. And Adam was still in Madison, Wisconsin, where I met him. And I was kind of like a jock kid in high school until I got hurt a few times and then pivoted into working in music, like as a junior in high school when I threw a benefit concert for Hurricane Katrina victims, and it went well. I kind of stumbled into it, and from that got a couple internships from a local venue in North Carolina called the Cat's Cradle.
I know that venue.
Yeah, great spot. At the time, it was like a 600 cap, and now it's like an 850 cap in Carborough, North Carolina, that a lot of folks that tour have been to before. And I also got an internship with a promoter in the area named Michael Reckless. And so at a pretty young age, I kind of learned how the venue side of booking bands and throwing a show, and also the promoter side of purchasing talent, marketing back then, which was like still a lot of flyers and MySpace. And then in college, kind of took that to the next level. where I was booking a lot of hip hop stuff and promoting a lot of hip hop stuff at the Cat's Cradle and throwing like dance parties and stuff. And at when I was going to UNC Chapel Hill, and my senior year of college, I booked a tour with a hip hop group called Camp Low, which was big in the 90s. And they were big in the 90s. And this was in 2010. So they did a tour. I think it was like 15 dates. And I booked it on my own and promoted it and got the support acts and went out on the tour. I think I told like my classes that I had mono or something. And this tour went pretty well. And one of the opening acts was this guy named Stolly, who had just signed to Rick Ross at the time. And his manager was a dude named Dan Resnick, who talked to his friend, was like, this kid Jack is like a hustler and he's pretty good at booking shows. You should get him to work at your booking agency. To his best friend at the time, Greg Fishman, who worked at Mood Swing 360. So I know that was a little bit all over the place. But my first job out of college was working as a junior booking agent at this company, Mood Swing 360 in New York. That company at the time, it was spring of 2011, they had LMFAO during Party Rock, Pete Wentz, Travie McCoy, a bunch of like pop electronic music. And I was trying to book like college shows, frat shows for them, and working some of the up and coming acts they had. Did that for a year in New York, and left like that next spring. And at the time, I really wanted to like kind of reassess things because I'd ran out of money in New York City. So I moved back home to North Carolina, and started managing people at that time. I'd kind of booked shows for long enough that artists would reach out to me from time to time, asking if I would manage them. I didn't really know what that meant. But they were really asking me to get them shows and help me like build their brands. And that's how I got into management. And that was like 2011.
That's
Since
nuts,
then,
man.
when I was young, early 20s, worked in tech and a couple different jobs. And on the side, I would manage until I was able to make enough money doing management to do that full time, which I would recommend to like a lot of young people getting into the industry. I think it's not always this like perfect story where you can just like go into full-time managing bands. It's not, early on, not always the most, lucrative thing you can be doing out of college. But
Yeah, that's actually a question right there. When you were
yeah,
booking all those shows, were you like, what was your headspace? Were you like, okay, this could be a career, I'm making serious money? Or was it still like, all right, I need to go to college, I need to figure out something real that I'm gonna do? Like, you know what I'm
yeah,
saying?
yeah. I think in college, I pivoted from like in my head wanting to maybe go to law school or something to that effect, and then deciding I wanted to work in the music business because I just recognized that I was good at the hustle of it and enjoyed it. I still like got my degree, but have I ever used my history degree from the University of North Carolina? Sure, but not in the day to day of a music job. But I just liked it, I guess. Even when I went
Yeah.
into booking, and booking is not like my favorite thing. I liked the
Hmm.
hustle. I liked building artist careers, making them money, and then also making money from those bookings as well. But when I moved back home and got into more specifically like into artist management,
Yeah.
I fell in love with it pretty quickly because it was just for me more hands-on with the artist's day-to-day career,
Yeah.
like getting in the trenches with trying to get them from point A to Z.
Yeah. No, it's just it's such an interesting spot, like that pivotal spot where I think it's funny actually too how many people have gotten hurt playing sports and then ended up in music. Like that's not
Yeah,
an uncommon theme. But so you're like kind of reassessing your whole life, you're doing these things on the side, and it's that interesting moment where it's like oh, what if I just did this full time? And it
yeah.
kind of clicks for different people at different times. So I was just curious in your early days of just promoting shows, like if that inkling started to happen where you're like, yo, maybe, or if it took like a little bit more before you're like, all right, yeah, I can just do this.
I think in high school it was fun, and I made actually like great money as a
Mhm.
high schooler. I was doing some shows and make like a couple $1,000 in a night, which for like a 17, 18-year old is pretty
Yes,
crazy.
bro. Yeah, that's
But
insane.
in college, I started to see the path towards like an actual, profession more so than just being like promoting shows. Not that that's not a profession, but for me is like an individual.
Okay, cool.
And
Yeah, that
then
answers it.
and then fast forward, I guess 2016, my friend Matt Quinn, the lead singer of Mount Joy, had written a few songs with his friend from high school, Sam Cooper, who plays guitar in the band. And we put out the first song, Astrovan, in October of 2016.
That was the
Um,
first song.
yeah. And it took off.
Oh,
It was kind of like early Spotify viral days where you could like
yeah.
get on a playlist as a new band and kind of
Hmm.
quickly take off and get like into their algorithm. And that happened. And in a month's time, you know, I was moving actually from the time from LA back to Austin, Texas. Matt Quinn dropped out of law school. He had just started like 6 weeks before that. Um, and we decided to like dive in and make a run at it. At the time, I was kind of thinking about leaving music potentially. But then my friend releases this project that's really exciting. So I decided, like, all these years weren't for nothing. Like I got to where I am today, and hopefully we can do something with this. So I brought them to C3 management at that time and moved back to Austin, Texas.
Dude, that's insane. Like
Yeah,
he could have gone down a whole different path. He could have been like, "Oh, this fun thing, whatever. I'm going to do
yeah,
law school." And you could have been on your way out. But that
yeah,
fateful, whatever that serendipity was, you guys both took the chance to be like, "Yeah, like let's do this, or let's at least
yeah.
see."
Sam Cooper, the
Because
guitar player, was already a lawyer, actually.
no
He was like,
way.
he had moved back to Philadelphia from Los Angeles like that summer. So we got him to come back to LA because we had 4 songs recorded. So we knew that we'd have
Yeah.
to put more music together. Um, we wanted to make this a real thing and a business. But put out the second song in January, which was Sheep, which was also, to this day, like one of the bigger songs they put out. And that kind of took
Yeah.
off right away. And from there, it's been a little under 4 years, but a whirlwind of touring for them, recording that first album and then the second, and just turning like that pretty much a couple songs that Matt and Sam had into what Mountjoy is today, and the business that they are as well. So
That's insane. And I also didn't realize that you were such a day one with that band.
yeah, um,
That's crazy.
Matt and I
So
actually
you,
met in 2011 when I was living in New York, working that first agency job. We got put on like a blind friend date with 2 of our friends from high school. We're like, you both have no friends in Brooklyn. You should be friends. And so it's crazy how little things like that happen and what they end up potentially leading to.
I get sometimes like almost too in my head about things like that, but that's why I think it's so important to always treat people like people and just
For
be an
sure.
all around decent person because like you never would have thought on that first hang that that would end up being your career. And
Yeah,
like you just don't know those things, but here's proof that being a good person and just getting along can go so far. I love that.
definitely. Um,
So, God, that's it's just blowing my mind that it was I don't know, like I guess I wasn't like deeply, deeply familiar with Mount Joy, but I just thought that
yeah.
they had been around like even longer than that. And it's
Uh,
I don't know. I didn't realize that the story went that fast because they're only just now, like we'll talk about it because it's a big piece of talking about 2020
mhm.
and music business, but they just this year put out their second LP, right?
Yeah. They pretty much put that out exactly 2 years after their first one. So they put that second song out and then a third song on our own. And then they signed to Dual Tone Records, which is a label out of Nashville,
Yep.
who do Lumineers, Shaky Graves.
Yeah, they
Uh,
like hold that genre down, right?
yeah, they do real well in like that indie folk space. Um,
Yeah.
and the Lumineers were like their breakout band that we were actually on tour with when the pandemic started,
Oh,
which is pretty crazy.
crazy.
Yeah, but so we signed to them that summer of 2017, put out our first single that fall, and then the album in the spring of 2018. Um,
That's nuts.
yeah,
So, okay, questions here because this is like a very cool formative way and this will lead us into the discussion of like 2020 all that.
right.
You clearly had plenty experience in music by the time that you were working with them, but did
Mhm.
you have a moment like you said you moved back from LA back to Austin
Yeah,
going to C3. Did you have a moment that was like oh, this is about to get real? Like, did you have a moment specifically with Mount Joy where it went from being like, this is a cool project to
Yeah.
like, this is about to be life and this is about to be my artist where we're going to go do some crazy shit?
I think there's different moments along the way if you have success that you're like, whoa, this is happening.
Hmm.
Um, and those, like looking back now, some of those are so small in
Yeah.
the big picture, but they were just like turning points.
They mean everything to you.
Yeah, I think the first one was um, Spotify. That was crazy. We were like on the viral charts, and we were getting emails from A&Rs every day from different labels.
Yeah.
One of the A&Rs that reached out, Matt Quinn, was actually an intern for back in the day, and he didn't even like the guy hadn't connected the dots that was the case. That was pretty funny.
Love that.
But we were getting a bunch of emails. That was kind of this crazy thing where like um, there's people actually interested, like big picture folks interested in this project. But I think the first one was when on tour we did like a 5 or 6 date run with the Head and the Heart on the East Coast, and it was our fourth. The first run of that tour was like our fourth show ever.
Right.
We assembled band members on like the night of the election in 2016 is when we like got our drummer and our bass player to join the band and did our first practice. And so these shows were in, I believe, late February of that next year. So we just became a band and we were playing in front of like 3,000 cap venues, 2,000 to 3,000 cap venues on this run.
Which is so unreal. Like, that does
Yeah,
not happen for bands to just go from like, oh, cool, we have a couple songs popping off. Here's
yeah.
2 to 3,000 cap rooms,
And
first
so that was
tour.
like that was the
Let's
thing where
go.
they were also on C3, and so just we got thrown into it. So we went from playing like a sold out, um, Mercury room,
Yeah.
Mercury Lounge in New York, which
Yeah.
is like a 250 cap, to playing these big rooms. And uh, Matt, the lead singer, like lost his voice before the first show because we had done like a crazy like run of shows like LA, New York, Philly, and then this first big show. And he got over it and like luck, like thank God got his voice right. But it was just this scary moment where we're like, okay, this is like happening now, and we have to like really get our shit together from like in every way with it, like turning
Yeah.
this into a business.
Yeah, dude, that's so cool. All of that. And okay, perfect transition. How is Mount Joy just the band that makes things happen against all odds? Like literally like about to like be in school and college, you're about to bail from music and then having success, having that crazy moment, continuing to grow. And then this year, I swear, like you're one of the only managers I've talked to that has stayed so proactive and stayed on the grind in such a cool way where it doesn't feel like you're just being like, oh, well, it's a bad year. We'll see what we can do. Like,
Yeah.
against all odds, you have made the coolest shit happen. And that's exactly what I wanted to talk about in this because like, I mean, it's a podcast in itself to talk about Mount Joy and everything, but I think we painted a clear enough picture. The band put out great music. It got noticed at the right time and it grew to be
Right.
very, very real.
Mhm.
But now you're faced with this other challenge where you're coming into LP2. You were on tour with the Lumineers when
Mhm.
like really touring ended, right?
Yeah.
And yes, you had everything geared up to go, and then all of a sudden it's like, here's every unexpected circumstance in the world, figure it out. But
Mhm.
here you are doing exactly that.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of it is really credit to the band, and like we were really close, and we have lots of conversations, try to make decisions together quickly, and come up with like the right solution to these problems that we're having.
Yeah.
Another one of these turning points was like getting on the Lumineers tour was crazy.
Oh,
We
okay.
thought we might have a shot just because of like being in the same world as them and having some different connections to their team and stuff like that. And they ended up liking the music, and we locked in. I think it was 28 dates with them, and their shows are like like 15,000 cap arenas for playing like Barclays in New York and pretty much professional basketball and hockey stadiums. And that was a whole nother thing where like our crew is one bus um, of 10 people. And before this year, we would like before 2019, that would have been crazy to even have like our own crew more than just like a front of house sound guy. And so we
Yeah.
had like, a crew for the first time, and we're going out on tour with a band that's crew is, many buses, semis,
Yeah.
I think around 70 people.
I didn't ask
So
this. Do you tour with the band when the band's out?
sometimes,
Okay.
not definitely not like full runs.
Got it. So
But
you'll come
I'll
out, make
pop
sure
in.
shows look good, make sure everything's running smooth.
There's certain like
Cool.
markets I think it's important for me to be at,
Yeah.
to like meet with partners, or radio folks in the area, or anyone we might need to link up with. But
Sure.
generally, I'm not on the road for that many dates on a run like this. But it was just like a crazy turning point. We're like, okay, we're going to play arenas. Um, how do we make ourselves look good in this space, sound big, not step on toes, be like a pleasure to work with. And so that was a whole thing into itself. And then we started the tour end of January, and it was supposed to go to like March 14th or 15th.
Yeah.
And in March, it starts like, the coronavirus starts to become like more of a thing that's being talked about. And to be completely honest, know, we didn't know as a whole that it was like going to be anything near what it is now, but or that it would even really affect the tour or any of our upcoming shows,
Yep.
until maybe the last couple shows where people started to talk about it more. And then we were playing a show in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, at the where the Bucks play,
Mhm.
and before the show, Sam, the guitar player, was like, "I think they're gonna like cancel the tour after the show." And we only had one more show. Luckily, we got so lucky that we got in most of those tour dates.
Yeah, that's
Um,
insane.
Yeah, it's crazy to get those all in the first little bit of this year. But
Mount Joy,
uh,
the band that has the best look mixed with the worst look all at
we
once.
would. It
Let's
depends on the
go.
day, but that was lucky. He was right. At the end of that show, they had canceled like an NBA game midway through the game, and um, we were told that they would be canceling the next show. So we were getting them. We were turning the bus around instead of going to Minneapolis, going to Chicago to fly them home and sending the bus back to Nashville. And then we were just like, just kind of hit us like a ton of bricks because this is like mid March. We have a bunch of festivals coming up in April, May, June, and then our album release, which was June
So
5th.
your year was dialed. Like this
Yeah.
was gearing up to be the big year.
Yeah, it was exciting. Like it was like, you can see a band touring and selling out shows in like 600 cap rooms, but the
Yeah.
money is still super tight with all the expenses. And so this was kind of the first year where we're going to be playing like 1,500 to 3,000 cap venues headlining in this fall, where we
Mhm.
were going to band members were going to make money for the first time. And so we were just
Yeah.
not just about the money, excited to play these rooms like across the country that are some of the most famous spots. And we were putting out an album that we wanted to help push. Like when we play shows, it really, you can see online how things move from like with streaming and on socials and everything else. So
Yeah.
playing those shows is going to be a big part to support the album too. So I think for about 2 months, we felt pretty helpless, but we had to get creative around the album release to promote it, to do radio sessions by like all of them in different areas, with the keyboard player being in Portland, two of the guys being in Long Beach, two of the guys in Philly. We had to like piece together these sessions. We had to do different remote content. And, the lead singer was doing tons of drops for radio and stuff like that. Just all of this like remotely, where we had to just do anything we could to promote the album.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, it ended up going pretty well, all things considered. And it's still like, we're still pushing it. It came out not that long ago, but it was a crazy time to like say like, look at me, look over here, because it was also during like, you know, big social like upheaval in our country. So
Yeah. My next question is, as this all happens, as the manager, where is it in your head where you're like, all right, it's time to get real proactive? Like, where did you have that moment of like, I'm about to have to change gears and figure out a whole rollout in a whole different way? Like, when
yeah,
did that get real? And like, what was your first proactive move in that?
Well, right away, we realized we wouldn't be able to do like these different promo type runs we had thought of. We were going to do like a cool album release show in New York for like press and partners and stuff. All of those, that rug got pulled out from under us. So it was me like reaching out and talking to our label Dual Tone and members of our radio team and saying like, we'll do anything. Like if you need us to do anything, we'll do it. Like making ourselves
Okay.
available.
So you were almost there first. Like you hit up your people first and you're like, hey, it's
Mhm.
about to get weird, whatever ideas you have, we'll do it.
And they're proactive too. But like I think I saw like one person do a late night show where they pieced people together on different like Zoom screens and played
Yeah.
a song, and it sounded good because it was mixed and timed properly to a click, et cetera, et cetera. And I was like, all right, we need to do that for like everything.
Wow,
Because they
cool.
were in different places. And so we had a song, the song Strangers was doing well at radio. So we were trying to get all these different sessions across the country to radio stations where usually we'd be going there in person. Um,
Yeah.
so doing that, doing other pieces of like content. The lead singer was super busy doing drops, content, and interviews. And then, a lot of people bundle tickets with their physical or digital albums to sell them to
Yeah.
like kind of have a big first week. And we didn't really want to do that because we didn't want to make our ticket price crazy. We were more worried about having fans there than we were about this big first week number. We were
Mhm.
worried that that could like rub people the wrong way potentially. But what we
Yeah.
did do is we made these bundles where people would get our vinyl and we would do like Zoom shows with you or meet and greets or um, all sorts of different digital things for fans. We did like these quarantine sessions, which were different live recordings of some of the songs from the album that we would send you the MP3s for a few bucks on top of the album price. The
Yeah.
Zoom shows, were for like 25 people. So you get all your friends to throw in like 10, 15 bucks each to get towards like the asking price we were trying to get for those. And those were
Oh,
like huge successful.
crazy.
At a certain point, we're like, we can't do these anymore. Cause like,
Oh my God. Whoa. So
yeah,
instead of like doing like Instagram live or like something like that, you would cap a Zoom and then
yeah.
it would be a real unique show where it wasn't just a pre-recorded thing. Like every Zoom show
Uh,
was its own.
yeah, we would do
And
like 5 songs. We would do like 2 songs while he tunes the guitars. He'd answer some questions from the people in the chat that were like, could be anything. They were just like kind of intimate.
yeah,
I think we'll look back and it'll be like the best deal ever for fans that
dude,
wanted to like
that's like
interact
the
with the band at
ultimate
early
VIP
stage.
experience.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, we were doing like 4 of those in a night sometimes. So it became too much.
Hmm.
But at first it was a great idea. But also we did do an Instagram live stream that we did it, I think in May.
Hmm.
That time period is like all
Dude,
smashed together. So I can't really remember,
right?
but for the Instagram live, like we saw a lot of people doing Instagram live fundraisers and we thought it would be cool to kind of do a variety of show of sorts with our friends that we thought people might find interesting. So we pulled friends from like the music world and sports world and just like personalities in general. So like we had their friend Nolan Patrick, who plays for the Flyers, came on the Instagram live. Connor Barwin, who used to play for the Eagles, they're from Philly. So Connor Barwin used to
Cool.
play for the Eagles and now has like a charity organization, now works for the Eagles. He came on and talked for a bit. We had Kevin O'Connor, who writes for The Ringer.
Oh wow,
Talk,
y'all are
talk
tied
down,
into
come
the
on.
sports world. Damn,
Matt and Sam are big sports fans. I am as well. So that's
that's
something that like
cool.
we've kind of wanted. We'd love to do more stuff in that realm. And then we had a bunch of bands kind of in their space, like West from the Lumineers, Camp, Houndmouth, one of the guys from Rainbow Kitten Surprise, um, the girl from the Greeting Committee, and Adam Melcher, who I also manage, and a few other folks come on the live stream. And we just raised money via Venmo the whole time. Just telling people to
Wow.
like throw us some money. And it was for Phil Abundance, which is the Philly Food Bank, and another charity that I'm forgetting, but they raised $30,000 over the course of a few hours. And it was like, the engagement was
Holy.
crazy because it was kind of like these people were coming in and out as guests on the show. And we had kind of promoted when they'd be on. So their fans would maybe stick around. And it was just a really fun night. I think we're going to do it again sometime soon for a different cause. But just another thing we kind of did that was like it was a good idea, but we didn't know how good of an idea it was.
Yeah.
We also didn't know the execution. Like, is this person going to say yes to coming on our live stream? What are the politics with that? How do we
Yeah.
talk to their team about it? And it ended up going really smoothly, and there was no politics. But yeah, that was another thing that we kind of thought of, and it became a bigger thing than the idea we initially had.
Well, you
But
know what I
one of like
like
the
there?
COVID things. Yeah.
I really just like there, it feels like there is a general vibe to everything you guys have done this year where it's like, it's not how can we make money first? It's how do we get through this together? How do we
Yeah.
still bring something to our fans? How do we still help our community? How do we make the best out of the worst? So all
Mm-hmm.
these things you've done, none of it is ideal, but it was like proactive in the best way. Not only were you fast and proactive in saying we're willing to do whatever radio shows want or whatever people are asking of us, you were also just like having fun with it and just not overthinking it. You were just like, cool, like let's send it, let's go, let's try
Yeah.
it. And that to me just feels so right in this. So to hear you explain it further and to hear like the success behind it, I'm like, that's it. That's what I
Yeah.
love. So um
Yeah. I mean,
the
credit
other
to the
thing,
band, like when they were not doing well, like to give up all their money. Like
yeah,
they donated so much money this year when like it's been a tough year for us too, but it's been a much tougher year for other people, and they've recognized that. So just like a credit to them and all of our fans too for being so supportive of the different causes that have been important to us.
dude, exactly though. That's like that adding not even value, like taking care of people first, like just putting other people first and like helping goes so far. And that's
Yeah.
so cool that that's been the mantra throughout this year. Because the other thing, the other crazy, absolutely unpredictable thing that was super unfortunate for you, but in the scale of things, not comparable is the timing of the death of George Floyd and your album coming out. Like, not only was Corona going on and you had to like figure that out,
Mm-hmm.
then something even crazier happens and totally different, like right at the drop of such an important album for you. So you basically then have to be like, okay, don't pay attention to our album. Go out and like support your communities and do what's right and pay attention to bigger things. So yet again, you and the band are faced with this thing of like, how do we pivot? How do we do this?
Mm-hmm.
So what
Yeah.
did you do?
I mean, that was like the honestly, it was like the easiest decision for us, just because like it was so obvious that we shouldn't be putting the attention on ourselves at that time when we put out the album on June 5th, which is like
Yeah.
the second week of like when the protests like really started like ramping up. And
Yeah. It almost took like the internet like a week to be like, wait a minute, this is fucked.
yeah, people were
And
just like
then,
still finding out details and then finding out more unfortunate details, and um, other individuals that were dealing with the same thing or had the
yeah,
same thing happen to them recently. And like, you know, it's unfortunate that it had to happen. That had to happen for people to like, and us as like a country as a whole in the world to like really wake up.
yeah.
But
Agreed.
yeah, that was a crazy time for us because it's like it's you never want to be like having to plan business around things that are bigger than that.
No.
But we did have to because you know we still had to figure out this thing that was slotted to release. But that week we tried to like Monday of that release week, so it was like the 1st of June or whatever. We figured we were like, okay, this is like there's no we should put out no way we should put out this album. So we reached out to our label and we're like, hey, like we can't do this. Like this doesn't feel right. We don't want to be marketing this, and we want the attention to remain where it is currently online, and in the real world as well.
Yeah.
And the label is like, you'll be able to move half the things off of the release schedule, but the other half are just gonna come out. And so we're like, okay, like what are other things we could do? We felt like we were in a pretty shitty position, but um, we just decided that like we'd make a statement um, saying we think the attention should remain where it is currently, and that we're gonna try to like hopefully all of you can help us help this cause by donating some money, or any of the sales from that first week once it was out
Yeah.
would go to a cause to help the fight that was going on.
Yeah.
So I think you know, again, credit to everyone being able to move quickly and make that happen. I'm glad we were able to like find a solution, but it
Yeah.
was still, you know, not one you want to have to make. And hopefully we don't forget about this year and what happened. And now that things have changed politically, hopefully we just like that stays fresh in our mind. We continue to try and like work towards improving our country and world, because that could feels like times like that, when everything like really ramps up,
Yeah.
people are really paying attention and pushing for change. But then with our news cycle, it can kind of come and go. So hopefully people continue to like remember that moment.
No, I completely agree. And I think all of us in entertainment felt that, where it was like, we're all very passionate about the things we're doing, the artists we're working with, the projects that are going on. But it's kind of like this very humbling moment to like get out of your own bubble and be like, oh shit, the world is bigger than me and my band and my project. And I need
Yeah,
to like make sure that people are treated like people and the world can still exist here. So there's anyone to entertain. So I
yeah,
completely agree. And again, it was just another example of your team and your camp and your band doing the right thing in a completely unexpected, like you can't predict that ever. You can't predict anything in 2020, but you guys have so quickly adapted and done the right things. And the other thought that I have like in that is, even as you're explaining it to me on this podcast, you have such a cool, calm demeanor about it. But it's really easy to have that when you're looking back in hindsight.
yeah,
But like, what was going on in your head? Like, how that had to have been so stressful. Like, how did you get through
yeah,
that of being like, cool, like this massive band, that huge piece of your roster, your career, touring, the biggest year is falling apart. You're having to pivot an album around, like, obviously, again, too, you're like, all right, well, how are we going to come back to this album? Like, what did you do to stay sane during that time? How did you do that?
yeah. Like I think just a lot of conversations, like as a band and as a team, we just talk everything through and
Hmm.
try to come to like the right conclusion. But we really do like probably over communicate about these things.
Yeah.
And then um, myself and the band, I think we just have like a network of people we can go to bounce ideas off of that we really trust.
Yeah.
Um, and during those few different times, we just kind of went to our network of folks to ask advice, or bounce things off of them. And I think just having that, like having some people that experience have experience in this industry, but just in life in general, to be able to go to bounce things off of is so important. There was a lot of that going on at that time and throughout the rest of this year too. So
So basically, surround yourself with good people because it pays off in
yeah,
dividends when you don't expect it.
definitely, definitely.
I love that. So then the next chapter that I'm interested in is, as we've kind of just grown to adapt to the world that is dealing with coronavirus now,
Yeah.
bands have continuously gotten creative. And I feel like now, like, what are we, like, however many months in, is like, call it 7 months in, 6 months in,
Yeah.
depending. Now bands are like, check us out streaming online. And you're like, very cool. You are very
Yeah.
late to the party.
Yeah.
Um, but you guys have continued to stay ahead, and you are one of the bands that have very successfully done drive-in shows.
Hmm.
You've also, well, no, I don't need to. You've successfully done drive-in shows. Tell me about drive-in shows.
Yeah. I I might say his name wrong, but Mark Rebele, he started, he really like popped off on Instagram going live during COVID, and he does
Mhm.
like loops and stuff and sings live, and plays keys and a bunch of other different stuff. But I saw him announce a drive-in tour in the spring for the summer, I think, and I was like, first of all, there's been like levels to how serious it is to not leave your home throughout the
Yes,
past like seven
that's
months. And when
true.
he announced, I don't think I was really leaving my home at all. So I was like, is that responsible? And I think we found out more about this virus and the way to take care of yourself and others as time has gone by. But at the time, I was like, is that like the move to do that? Is the production going to be corny? And will people come? Um, and so I was like, we're not going to do that. I was like, we have like a little bit of money. I think we can like hold out and wait for when this is coming back. And then like, in March, they were telling us like in the summer, it's going to get hot and this is going to go away. Um, Turns out that was not the case. And I think like around middle of the summer, we're like, oh, and the industry is like, I think we made it worse on ourselves by just like our constant gossip of when this is going to be over. When in reality, no one in the music industry is a doctor.
Yes.
So everyone should just shut up and wait for real news.
That might be your episode sound clip. In reality, no one in the industry is a doctor. So maybe we just shut up and wait.
Yeah. So I was getting pretty frustrated because people were saying, now move your tours to next fall, which is what everyone's done at this point. But at the time I was like, what? No one knows anything. Why are we doing this? And you have to move your tour because if you don't, the holds will be gone. And that at those venues you want to play on, the days you want to play it in the future. So everyone had to do that. But I'm seeing these driving shows start to happen. A couple other people were doing them. And then I saw one in Philadelphia at the Phillies ballpark that was getting put on by the Live Nation team in Philly. The band being from Philly, I knew them pretty well. And this one guy we're pretty close with, Joseph Faree. I don't know if I saw him post about it or something, but I hit him up and I was like, what's the deal with this driving thing in Philly? I was like, let us get an offer. I think I was just like,
love that. Again, like, you just being proactive, you just paying attention, like, being like, go on.
He's the guy. He definitely looks out for us in Philly. The band's like a big Philly band. Like I said, even in that live stream earlier, they did like, they had a Flyers player on, Eagles, like they're big Philly guys. And he's like, I'll have you an offer tomorrow. And I was like, awesome. So I hit up our agent. I was like, an offer's coming from Live Nation for this Philly show. It's at the Phillies ballpark. And we both knew the team well. We're like, we knew they had too much to lose, that it wasn't going to be unsafe. Like Live Nation,
yes,
a pro team that hadn't worked in months, that were from the best venues in Philly. And so we felt good about it. And I was like, while we're up there, are there any other ones that we could play? I see some other bands playing these things. And she's like, our agent, Allie Hedrick, is like, I think we have like another offer at this place in Cape Cod. It's a low offer, but if it goes well, you guys will make money in the back end. I pitched to the band. I was like, look, I have no idea. Like, we have to assume it's going to not go well and then hope for the best, promote it, see how it does. They're like, okay, let's do it. So I was like, awesome. We're doing 2 shows. I went up there for it. We all flew, like the guys coming from Long Beach and the girl Jackie from Portland and myself coming from Austin. We all went like masks, shields, HVAC suits.
Like, full biohazard.
Yeah, got there early, quarantine, and played this show, and it was awesome. They did like 640 cars. Production was like a festival stage with good sound, great team. And we were just so happy. Like, it was end of August, so we hadn't played since March. And so we hadn't really seen each other since June. We had got together to do some live stream type stuff around the album release in LA. So we hadn't seen each other in a couple months. And the production was just so great. They beat their merch record with delivery to the car. How do you sell
merch? Yeah, I was going to say, how's that work?
So like the people that are doing it right with these things, they literally have like an app where you can order food, drink, and merch to your car. And they come in like a golf cart or a bicycle or whatever and like drop it off. And you can do it all in app, pay for it in app. So it's like, paperless.
Damn. Cardboard. It's like the same as getting like Uber Eats delivered or whatever.
Exactly. Exact same. So it was like that and like merch crush. Like, this is crazy. And then 2 nights later, we played the show in Cape Cod. We had a COVID test the day in between, which was like, at the time in August, you could not find a COVID test. And we're like, are we not going to play the show?
Yeah, like rapid tests too. Yeah.
It had to be 48 hours young.
Yeah.
So we found one in Connecticut and luckily went and played the show. That sold out at like 400 cars. They ended up making good money because it like did well in the back end. And that show was awesome too. And we're like, okay, these are awesome. The production's better than we thought it would be. Fans are so happy. Um, and it's going to help us a lot for a year where they hadn't made money in a long time. And
Yeah.
so I called up their agent, Allie, and I was like, let's see as many of these good ones that we can find, because there's all sorts of ones going on in the country right now. But like, let's find the best ones we can do and try to
Yeah,
book
because
them.
that's kind of the theme of you and the band, right? Is like you're down to be proactive and do stuff, but you're not trying to get sketchy and you're not trying to like
Yeah,
be the band that puts a risk out there or like does it wrong and like you're the
yeah,
responsible one. Like you're trying to work with professional people who are staying safe and like doing it right.
yeah. I'm glad we like broke the seal with that Philly show where I really trusted the team and like knew them as individuals,
Yeah.
because that made otherwise we didn't want to do this. We didn't want to be like the band, out playing shows when it didn't seem responsible. But that important time when we like deemed that it would be safe for everyone, um,
Hmm.
it made sense because of the people involved. And I think that'll like continue to be the case as these things pop up.
Dude, you
Um,
said something in that so casually where I was like, oh my God, did I just hear the new normal industry speak? Where you're like, yeah, we did 400 cars.
oh
And I
yeah,
was
yeah,
like, it's like, oh yeah, 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 they draw like 3,000 kids. Like all of a sudden, oh
yeah,
yeah, how many cars do you draw? Like that just
yeah.
fucked me up.
Super weird.
God.
But yeah, the cars can be from two. I mean, I haven't seen one with one person in them yet, but like 2 to 6 people.
Hmm.
Um, and it's cool. It's like the cars are spaced out, openings on each side of you, in back of you, and in front of you.
Hmm.
So every car has like a little space to the side of them or in front of them to put their little chairs down, or be in the bed of a truck, or put the trunk up on like an SUV or something. People are
Hmm.
bringing like, their little food or drink or whatever, and they're with
Yeah.
like their friends they want to go to concerts to with anyways, and not bump
Yeah.
into a ton of people, and you know not have to pay for parking, although that's what they're doing. So there's just like it's pretty comfortable, and people seem to be having a really great time with the experience and it being a different one.
Dude, that's so cool. Like I think
Yeah,
that that's the real message that I'm so inspired by in this is like being proactive, not reactive. Like you're not
mm.
just sitting here being like doom and gloom. You're just like, okay, like times are changing.
And it was
Like,
doom and gloom though.
yeah, yes,
Like March
fair.
and April were complete doom and gloom, like for sure. I think all of our plans looked like they would never happen again. And like at a certain point we had to like snap out of it.
Yeah.
Which is not fair to say for some people, because people have like lost family members and stuff this year. But for us in our business, like we just had to like get creative and try to keep things moving so that when we do, because we will get through this, like we want to come out on the other side, like, you know, with some things going on.
Yeah. And I also think there's another side of it where it kind of sucks for all of us. Like,
Yeah.
at this point, I so dearly miss just going to a show and seeing my
Oh yeah.
friends and seeing a band that I love. So, like, again, of course, you want to be responsible, but there is an element too of like the people that feel safe doing it and are smart about it. Like, how good it must feel to just see live music. Like, damn,
Yeah.
that's sick.
We there's the venue in Austin that I'm sure you've been on tour. This venue called Stubbs. It's a big open air
Oh, yeah, that's
outdoor
the spot.
2,400 cap room that C3 does. And last night, tonight, and tomorrow they have Dave Chappelle.
Oh,
And
no shit.
it's all tables, which is going to be a lot of stuff. I think next year, like you have to stage your table. People come to you. Um, you have to wear your mask. You have like
So it's
people aren't
almost
standing
like
in long lines
outdoor
anywhere.
dining kind of vibe, but a
Hmm.
show. Okay.
Hmm. And but for these, which is really exciting for me, and the company I work at, C3, that owns Stubbs and does the shows there, is going to continue to be on the cutting edge of these things. Is like they're doing rapid testing at the door.
No
So I know
way.
people have been taking temperature at the door at these things, but like, let's be real, taking temperature at the door anywhere is like, what is that? Doesn't mean you don't have COVID. And so
Right,
it's like
right.
it's like a good thing to do to like be
If you
like,
have a fever, that's great. Like, you're
right.
certainly going to not go
Yeah,
in, but that's
exactly.
not saying I don't
It's
have
not a
COVID.
bulletproof thing. And neither is rapid testing per se. We don't know, I guess. I don't know. Again, I'm not a doctor, but they're doing rapid testing at these shows, which is super promising. Not sure what it costs or the viability for like smaller rooms.
Yeah.
because it's a big outdoor space. But I mean, it's November right now. That makes me feel a lot better about later into next year.
Yeah, that's so crazy because I mean, we don't fucking know. Like we can sit here and speculate all we want, right? Cases are going up right
Yeah.
now, but there's talks of a vaccine. Like we truly don't know. And like us sitting here going back and forth saying, I think this month, I think that month, I think it's safe if there's COVID tests, I think it's safe if it's
Yeah.
cars. Like it doesn't matter. Everyone's going to have their own opinions. Everyone's going to like, we
Yeah.
just don't know. So that's not what this is about to me. What this is about is just artist manager who is proactive, taking care of his band and doing things the right way in completely, I'm going to do it, I'm going to say it, unprecedented times.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
the
Just,
discussion. And that's cool to hear. Like, it just feels like you're on the cutting edge. It feels like any application of a how can we do this the right way, you're at least entertaining and studying it and figuring out what you can do.
yeah. I think, I mean, they literally just had Ultra in Taiwan last week with like more
Oh
than 7,000
yeah.
people at it. When I saw the picture of the
Yeah.
DJ standing on the turntables, I thought it was like a Throwback Thursday post or something. And I was like, holy shit, they have no cases in Taiwan. And I was talking to my
Unreal.
friend, uh, Kevin Nish, who's in Korea right now. And he was talking about, he's like, you can't get into the country. He's like, if you get in, you have to quarantine for 2 weeks where you go in a hotel room and like you lock down and they bring your
Yeah.
food to your door and
Yeah.
they leave the food at the door. Like, unfortunately for us, I think we're like way far gone past that type of thing.
Dude,
But
it's so tricky because the states like it's like there's so much freedom and this and that and this. So
yeah,
it's like you have people like playing pretend. Like and
yeah,
I'm not here to say what's wrong and right and
yeah,
whatever,
me neither.
but
But clearly they're doing something right if they're
yeah,
having
like
festivals
with
right
the
now.
way where it's
Who
like
knows?
yeah, like certain it's just so state by state here that there's
Yeah.
not just like a that. Whereas some of these other countries were just like, this is what the fuck it is. If you don't like
Mhm.
it, sorry. And that's that. But what else? Because outside of drive-in shows, you also got real crafty with merch. But is there
Mhm.
anything to say in that hasn't been said before? Like, was there anything super unique that you did like, cause I know you were setting up a lot of stuff for Black Friday, but that's pretty much standard e-com for people,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. I think it's like you were saying, like how this could maybe be beneficial for like up and coming bands and stuff like that, or how you're trying to like make it during the pandemic, and find revenue streams for people that don't have touring revenue. And
Yeah.
I think one important thing to do and what fans also need to understand and be a little patient with is like pre-orders.
Mm,
I think bands need to find a good merch company that can do pretty quick pre-orders. Um, I would say not print on demand because you want to guarantee your quality a little bit better than that, which is sometimes hit or miss with that.
yeah,
Not to speak for all of them, but from my experience. So I would
totally.
look at doing pre-orders and getting your fans like to really give you an idea of if they're interested and what size they are, so you don't order too much stuff because you don't have money right now. So hopefully you can order kind of spot on as to what the fans want, and you're going to make some money and profit, not sit on a ton of merch because you're not touring. And for
Yeah.
fans, I would say just be a little bit patient because um, COVID's really affected shipping type stuff. Blanks are hard to find everywhere, and so just like your favorite band that's trying to get you a merch item that you like maybe give it like a couple extra weeks, because they're just trying to like if they're doing pre-orders, they're trying to order that exact amount for them to make some profit and for you to get a cool merch item. So that's
Yeah,
one thing that I
wow.
think that's like a big takeaway. And then another thing we did with Mount Joy is just like merch contests where like fans design the merch, which has been a cool way to like get our creative fans involved in like helping like choose the direction of the band, like how we look
Yeah.
and our merchandise. And fans have been really into that. We got a ton of creative fans that have just given us awesome stuff. Um, and the other fans that have been really supportive and purchased that stuff. So it's been pretty cool.
You know, I feel like there's an underlying theme of everything you're saying in this podcast is like community. Like you've done a really
Yeah.
good job having real community with Mount Joy. Like you guys have been there for your fans as much as you can. You're like, obviously, we wanted to be in front of you in person at a real show. We can't.
Yeah.
Here's a Zoom show. Here's a drive-in show. Here's something else we can do. Merchandise, like you're not just trying to be like, hey, we're broke. Can you buy this? Like you're being like,
Yeah.
hey, why don't you guys design some stuff? We'll do a contest like that. Not like and share to win merch, but do a contest where people can design stuff.
Oh, we want you to like and
Just,
share too.
yeah, please like and share. Like and share. Share with 5 friends for 1 extra chance to win. But like I feel that community in what you're doing, and I think I just think that's really cool. I feel like it just feels like the right thing to do right now. Like there is this sense of community with entertainment amongst the artists, amongst the managers, amongst the fans, where
Yeah.
it's like, hey, we all miss this, but we're all figuring it out. And it's nice that you give a shit. It's nice that on that side to hear all of these things, it's like, oh, cool. At least like as they go into every challenge, it's coming from the spot of how can we do this the best and how can we do this where everyone wins.
Yeah. I think this is like, it's been a crazy year, and this business was in no way prepared for it. All of our businesses, especially music though. Our backbone is like playing shows and being in front of people, and hopefully large amounts of people is the goal of
Yeah.
touring. And that can't happen. So I think it's made us all better, and at crazy. I mean, that's like not fair to say though, because some people have like lost everything, their business or their jobs. So it's not made us all better, but like I think as a business, we have had to get more creative in order to keep it going. So it's
Yeah.
just been a natural thing for us, because like my job is to continue to grow these projects I'm working on, but also just like make it so these people have livelihoods and can, afford to be musicians, which can, it's obviously can be very difficult.
Tell me if you feel differently, but it's almost like this really checks our privilege. Like you can't just be in
Oh yeah.
something and not bring value, or like, there's so much that's changed and there's so many people that aren't able to do it or whatever. It's like
Yeah.
if you really want to do this right now, you got to get real scrappy and you got to figure so many things out. So not to say it can't be done and not to be insensitive to
Yeah.
people that have circumstance that's different, but it's not an accident that you're on this podcast right now talking about what you're talking about. It was lots and lots of hours of you really analyzing what was going on and getting scrappy.
And I think it's too like we were spoiled before this, right? In every way in
I think
life. Like
so.
we would
Yes.
go out and do whatever,
Hmm.
and now can't do much at all. We definitely can't go to shows. I think we took shows for granted. I know I took shows for granted. I went to a couple of shows a week here in Austin where I'd kind of be like there to be there, maybe not
Yeah.
even paying enough attention.
I think we took
Um,
entertainment for granted, right? Like we're
for sure. And I
seeing
think
now the world where essential thing, like it's been a challenge to keep essentials in. So then
yeah,
entertainment is on the back burner and any form
yeah.
of it, you're like, oh,
And I hope the new government that's came into power will give back to the arts now, because like we're losing all these small venues that are
yeah.
the backbone. I said backbone like 4 times, but that are like the
I said
foundation for
unprecedented times.
they're the
You get a
foundation for like
pass.
these bands to get off the ground. Like you need to play this 200 cap, like you need to play the bootleg and then the troubadour, and then there's steps. And for these smaller
Yeah.
venues that, you know, are more month to month with their finances, because they're not owned, they don't have a bunch of financial backing. It's really tough. So there needs to be some sort of government bailout soon. We should
Yeah.
hopefully be like a beacon of culture and awesome music and the arts, and we need to support that. So I think, people should support NEVA, the National Independent Venue Association, who's trying to fight politically to get some money for these venues and for the arts. And that's just so important right now. And I think when shows are back, like I have no doubt that people are going to go to shows like crazy.
Yeah.
But go out to shows, support bands, buy their merch now online. If you can buy bands merch, if you have a little bit of extra money, I know that's a lot of people aren't lucky enough to have that right now. But if you do have some extra money, buy your favorite band's merch, buy a vinyl, do share their stuff on socials. follow them on Spotify, press that like heart button on Spotify next to the song you like, because all these things help up and coming bands and established bands grow or stay at the level they're at and like make a living. And it's gonna, the more we can all do that now will mean that more is going to be still be around when shows come back, and hopefully some of these bands that are like brand new bands aren't discouraged by the fact that there's no shows right now. Like take this time to like make the best music you can, get cool merch ideas together, get a website, put some music online, and so that when shows are back, you're ready to roll, and hopefully you have like a fan base. Like online is not gone away. So there's still ways to grow right now. So hopefully people can be supporting the arts as much as possible, and young musicians are just going to keep hopefully making great art during this time. So that when it comes back, hopefully in the summer or fall, it's going to be super epic.
That was so beautifully said, man. Like that really is it. I think that demand, like all of us still miss it and want it and are consuming online, but I really do. I mean, really, that's why I wanted to have this podcast, is like to encourage anybody listening, anybody that we can get to like keep going and keep creating, because it will get better.
I feel very strongly about that. I think it's going to be like, I think next year is going to be awesome. I hope I'm right. Hopefully, the powers that be help make that happen. Hopefully, the doctors are working hard. The real
Yes,
doctors.
us
The
music
rest of us,
industry speculating doctors.
yeah, the rest of us should try to listen to them.
Yeah, good Lord.
Hopefully, we can get out of timeout and go play again soon.
No, dude, I absolutely love that. And, who knows? Like, it could be cool even to check back in with you with a different podcast after a couple more months or however much time, because we don't know. But the one
Yeah,
thing that I do know is like you're gonna stay proactive and you're gonna stay grinding and you're gonna stay figuring it out. And that's an example that I really like to hear from, because it can certainly get all doom and gloom and discouraging. And I don't think anybody wins when you just get fully stuck in that,
yeah, and that's, yeah. I mean, this year has been easy for that to happen. It's happened to me multiple times, and I'm sure lots of people in our industry and others. But um, you know, like I said, I hope good times are coming.
Yeah.
And in the meantime, just let's keep making art.
You know what? Let me end this off with one question, because I think that's
Yeah.
all too real. And here you are, like for the most part, staying pretty posy. But it would be a lie to say that there was no doom and gloom. So if there is one thing that you've learned through this, or in those spots of real doom and gloom, what have you done to get through it?
Um, I think during like the worst times, I was taking long walks,
Yeah.
long walks and lots of phone calls with friends, kind of like commiserating. I think,
Hmm.
but trying not to like be too negative while commiserating with each other, as it's been easy to do so in like the music business. Um, but yeah, just trying to like get outside and try to clear the mind a bit, and then just to try to get back to work in some way to create something positive for like for all my clients, so that we can keep this moving when it's over. Just trying to like just see that light at the end of the tunnel, because um, or else it can be like, as this continues to prolong, it's going to be super depressing. So I think getting outside and walking has been um, definitely one of the best
I
parts of this year.
I love that you say that, because I am such a walk guy and I'll
Yeah,
notice my mood gets worse. Like I'll kind of have a rough week, or I'll be like discouraged or unmotivated. And I'll be like, what happened? And I'll be like, oh, I didn't go outside. Like, even if it's not a walk, like sometimes I'll ride my
yeah,
bike, sometimes I'll go for a walk, sometimes I'll literally just sit in the sun outside. But if those things go out of my life and I'm too much just inside on the computer, I'm bumming. So I love
yeah,
that you answered with something so simple. That's great.
yeah. It's the truth. The people in my neighborhood probably think I'm crazy as I like wander the east side of Austin, Texas.
Oh, there he
Like,
goes again.
I'm not old enough to be like the old wandering man yet, but I'm just leaning heavily into that part. I'm always got the AirPods in too, so I
Yep.
look like I'm talking to myself.
Dude,
People on many a conference call have wondered why they've heard like a train going by, but
it's you
that's the new
walking.
conference call.
I'm to the point where I can pretty much tell every parked car in my neighborhood. Like I can tell, oh, they cleaned this car. Oh, they live in this block. Oh, they got new
Yeah.
wheels. Oh, this happened. Like, I am one with my neighborhood at this point.
You see a lot when you're just on foot as opposed to driving by things. You see like some crazy shit. So
Everything,
it's entertaining.
everything. I love it. All right. Well, there you have it. Go out for a walk. If you're listening to this, it's too late to start it by going out for a walk. Maybe I'll do the intro. Maybe I'll be like, at the very end, we talk about going for a walk and
Just
how
do that now
helpful it
while you
is.
listen to this.
So trust me as you listen to this intro, hit a walk and it'll all make sense. Yeah, I'll do something like that.
Exactly. Yeah. Now that
Tight.
the sun sets at like 5 o'clock. So.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, man. All right. Well,
Awesome.
I think we should end it here. This was great.
Yeah, man. Good talking.